Creating crisp vocals could be challenging. They need to be upfront and bright, but avoid harshness and aggressive sibilants. By the end of the video, you'll have a great chain and some new techniques to elevate your vocal production, so let's cover creating crisp vocals with advanced mixing techniques. Starting off, let's talk about the routing that I'd recommend for crisp vocals. We're going to start our processing on the vocal channel. Once processed, the signal will be routed to an aux track that includes a unique parallel technique. Lastly, both the channel and the parallel signal will be routed to the same bus, on which we'll introduce some final processors. So the vocal starts on the channel, gets sent to a parallel track, then both the output of the channel and the parallel track meet at the same bus. We're going to cover the processing that we use shortly, but let's take a quick listen to the original vocal and then the processed vocal so that you can hear what we're working toward.
I won't never sell my soul, I keep with the flow. They gon' weigh you down, but he teach me to flow. I won't never sell my soul, I keep with the flow. They gon' weigh you down, but he teach me to flow.
Let's introduce our channel strip processing. So our chain is going to start simple, but it gets more complex as it goes on. It starts with EQ, then de-essing, peak compression, wave shaping or upward compression, then saturation. Now you're welcome to change the routing or the processor types used, but this is a great starting point. Also, tuning is optional and it doesn't really contribute to whether or not the vocal sounds crisp, but for this track, I'll insert a tuner after the compressor to avoid amplifying any artifacts with post-compression makeup gain. So, the first EQ is subtractive. With it, I'll attenuate unneeded lows with a high-pass filter up to before the fundamental. I'll dip the area around 250 Hz slightly to reduce masking to high frequencies, and attenuate resonances from the nasal cavity that vary from performance to performance but are between about 800 Hz and 1.3 kHz. Now right now, I don't want to amplify anything, I'm going to save that for later. Additionally, I'm going to leave the sibilants alone and let the de-esser handle this in a dynamic way. With the de-esser, I'll use it exactly how you'd expect. I'll isolate the attenuation to the offending frequencies using a split band setting and achieve anywhere between 1 to 4 dB of attenuation as needed. I want this range to be balanced so that I can amplify it later on without the sibilants becoming harsh. For the compressor, this is where some specific settings are really helpful. Ideally, find a compressor with look-ahead and enable it, if possible, by about 1 to 3 milliseconds. Use a softer knee with a 3:1 to 5:1 ratio and reduce the threshold until you achieve about 6 to 8 dB of attenuation. Use a very quick attack and a release of 50 milliseconds. Lastly, use makeup gain. Let me show you what these settings are going to do. So the look ahead and the short attack cause attenuation very quickly, whereas no look ahead results in more gradual attenuation of the transient. The settings that we have here compress the full signal. Subsequently, makeup gain will amplify more of the vocal's quieter details. This contributes significantly to the quintessential upfront sound that's needed to create crisp vocals. Next, with this free wave shaper, we can make these details even more pronounced. To use it, I'll create a variable in the low amplitude range and drag it upward to amplify it. Too much, and you'll start to hear some ugly intermodulation distortion, but just enough and it can solidify the vocal in the front of the mix. Last up on the channel strip, we'll saturate the vocal. Since we've balanced the vocal with EQ and de-essing, and then brought up a bunch of quieter details, the harmonics should help fill the remaining gaps without emphasizing any unwanted qualities. Now the saturator that you pick is, of course, up to you, but I find that tube saturation emphasizes the highs slightly and can even accent some of the transients, which is helpful for creating a crisp sound. So again, the chain is pretty straightforward for now, but it sets us up well for more advanced techniques. Let's take a listen to what the processing on the channel strip is doing to the vocal.
I won't never sell my soul, I keep with the flow. They gon' weigh you down, but he teach me to flow. I won't never sell my soul, I keep with the flow. They gon' weigh you down, but he teach me to flow.
Real quick, if you want to get your mixes to sound like professional songs, we have a mixing membership called the Sage Audio Membership, where you get access to Sage Audio University for in-depth mixing and mastering courses, private one-on-one mentorship, unlimited personalized mixing feedback, and 50 free mastered songs per year. Go to sageaudio.com or use the link in the description. Next, let's get into our advanced parallel processing. So now that we've finished processing the channel strip, let's create a send or a parallel track that has the same amplitude as the main track. First, we'll insert a linear phase EQ and with a high-pass filter, isolate the high frequencies and then boost the air with a high shelf. Now make sure it's linear phase or you're going to have some phase interference between this parallel signal and the channel signal. Next, we'll introduce a compressor and heavily compress. For a cleaner sound, and if you have the FabFilter Pro C2, the mastering option works well here since it introduces very little distortion. However, pick a compressor that adds an enjoyable timbre to the particular performance that you're working on. For a crisp sound, a compressor type that adds some distortion helps. Try using no look ahead, a hard knee, higher ratio, and a tack of about 20 milliseconds to cut into and distort the transient, and then a faster release. Again, experiment to find what works well for your vocal. After compression comes bright reverb. The reverb you pick is also subjective, but try to find something that emphasizes high frequencies or has the option to equalize the reflections. Blend the reverb in subtly, and then blend these densely reverberated high frequencies in with the original vocal. For an even brighter sound, you could use an exciter after the reverb. Fresh Air is a great free option that both equalizes and introduces harmonics to the high range, causing a bright sound. So let's take a listen to what this parallel track sounds like, both soloed and blended in with the original vocal. Notice how the highs become bright, the vocal sounds more detailed overall, and how we have a lot of control over this high range by adjusting the channel fader's level.
I won't never sell my soul, I keep with the flow. Life gon' weigh you down, but he teach me to flow. I won't never sell my soul, I keep with the flow. Life gon' weigh you down, but he teach me to flow.
Last up, we have collective bus processing. So the vocal is sounding a lot better, but we still have some processing to add to the collection of the original channel signal and the parallel high-frequency reflections that we created. I'll change the outputs of the channel and the parallel track to the same bus. Now I can control the level of the overall vocal and process everything collectively. First, I'll add a short delay and then blend it in with the plugin's wet dry. This will thicken everything that we've done so far. 200 milliseconds is a good starting point. Then, I'll add another reverb. This could be more traditional reverb, but again, it's definitely subjective. Just be sure to blend it in so that the vocal doesn't become washed out, which would undo everything that we've been working towards so far. So from here, we have a couple options. With delay and reverb, our original mono vocal now has variation between the left and the right channels. In other words, we now have both a mid image and a side image. One great sounding step at this point is side image transient expansion. It sounds like it wouldn't work, but adding impact and punch to the side image really helps a vocal sound aggressive and crisp. This free flash transient expander is a good option. Alternatively, you could place an EQ here using mid-side filters to emphasize what you want more of. I found that amplifying 2 to 5 kHz on the mid-image helps the vocal cut through. Then a boosted bell on the side image in the low mids creates impressive width. Meanwhile, a mild cut to the same range on the mid-image adds some more clarity, again reducing masking in the highs. Or you could add an instance of Fresh Air and use some subtle settings. Or depending on the vocal, a combination of these processors could be used to varying degrees. Personally, I really like ending the chain with EQ since I can now shape the entirety of the vocal to work with the other instrumentation. So let's take a listen to what these processors add to the vocal. Notice how they give the vocal a finished and polished quality, help the vocal work well with the instrumentation, and create the crisp upfront sound indicative of modern music.
I won't never sell my soul, I keep with the flow. Life gon' weigh you down, but he teach me to flow. I won't never sell my soul, I keep with the flow. Life gon' weigh you down, but he teach me to flow.
As I mentioned earlier, if you want to get your mixes to sound like professional songs, we have a mixing membership called the Sage Audio Membership, where you get access to Sage Audio University for in-depth mixing and mastering courses, private one-on-one mentorship, unlimited personalized mixing feedback, and 50 free mastered songs per year. Go to sageaudio.com or use the link in the description.